Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. So I wanted to talk about the lawsuit hearings that happened this morning. I think probably many of you were listening into that. Some of you may not have had a chance to listen into that, so I could recap a little bit for you and just answer a few questions about that. I'd like to stay fairly focused on that. I'm sure we're going to get some other questions, as we normally do, but let's see if we can sort of, deal with those. So first few in, Save Trees from Nepal, hi, and G'day for Joe Young, and good to see you too, Mohammed, although I don't get to see you. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the DV 2021 case, and Ahmed, if you have a quick question about that, perhaps you could put that in the chat and I'll try and answer. What's your question about administrative processing? What do you want to know about that? The topic, Bobby, is the DV 2021 lawsuit hearings that happened this morning. This is for the Good Luck and Go cases. We can talk about that. Let's see. Quick question before we get into that, then I'll just answer a couple of these questions quickly. Do you have to? You've received an email to send documents for DV 2022. Born in Albania. Do you have to apply to verify military records? So the important thing there is, if you were in the military, you should provide some records about that. If in your country there is national service or conscription or something like that, where either males only or males and females, perhaps in some countries, have to do some sort of military service, and you somehow got exempted from that, then you should prove the exemption. Okay, that's basically what you should do with military service. So, if there's an expectation that in this country everybody should have some sort of military service, then you need to prove why you don't have that if you don't have that. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about these lawsuits then. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that's a quick question. Ready for scheduling. So DV 2021 applicant 11K got ready for scheduling 3 months ago. Have you got a chance? Time is running out. Let's be honest. It's the 27th of September, right? It's Monday. The fiscal year ends on Thursday evening. That's, since you're probably ahead of me in time, there's 3 days to go. There's no time. We got to be realistic. At some point, you've got to say, look, there's no time. The only real chance for people, there's two chances, I guess. One is if you're on the lawsuit, and we'll talk about that in a moment, you've got a chance of continuing the time at some later point. And the other chance would be some of the government legal changes that are being suggested. They're not laws, but there's a thing called the Meng Amendment. And that amendment, they're trying to pass a law through the House that would save some of the cases that were affected by both the travel ban, the Muslim ban, and also the cases affected by COVID. It's not law yet. We have to wait and see if that happens. So in the meantime, I really only intend to talk about the lawsuit. Other than that, if you're not a member on the lawsuit, you probably have little or no chance, frankly, and we can talk about that. So let's talk about the lawsuit then. The lawsuit was held in front of Judge Mehta this morning. It was the Go lawsuit is basically finished. They're just waiting for the exact sort of numbers and what remedy Judge Mehta is going to provide, and Judge Mehta needs to do that before the end of the fiscal year. So on the Go lawsuit, that's going to happen. And the hearing this morning had Charles Cook sort of just explaining the rationale behind the reservation of visas number that they're asking for. Charles Cook asked for the reservation of all visa numbers, which would cover plaintiffs and not non-plaintiffs. But it was very obvious, and it's been obvious prior to this hearing, that Judge Mehta is not interested in providing visas for non-plaintiffs. Effectively, without a class action, there isn't a lawyer to argue on behalf of the non-plaintiffs. So for those of you that were wise enough to get involved in a lawsuit, you have a lawyer arguing for you. For those of you that didn't hear about the lawsuit, I don't know how the hell you didn't hear about it, because I was talking about it for a long time. But for some people didn't hear about the lawsuit, or you chose not to be on the lawsuit, then unfortunately you took your chances. You decided you didn't want to be on the lawsuit, or you just didn't know about it, you weren't paying attention. And unfortunately, you're going to lose your chance in 3 days' time. That's it. That's the reality. It's a horrible thing to happen, but that's normal. That happens every year. You can't blame the lawyers. Some people on Twitter this morning have been blaming the lawyers for only arguing for the named plaintiffs, in other words, for their clients. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to bloody well do. They're supposed to argue for the people that pay them, right? We were very lucky last year that we had a team of lawyers that achieved a class certification from the AILA team that argued for more people and people that were not paying them. But that's not normal. If you think that that's normal, you're nuts. That's not normal. So, if you wanted to protect your rights, you had an opportunity earlier this year to engage in a couple of the lawsuits, several lawsuits. There's been lots of opportunities. If you didn't do that, that was your own decision. Okay. And it's harsh and it's sad, but that's the reality. What the government does each year is that they end the processing on September 30th. That happens every year. That's happened for the last 20-something years, 25 years this has been going on. It is not an excuse to argue that you somehow didn't know that on September 30th your chances would be up. It's a shitty year this year because COVID and because of the inaction of the government and everything else. Yeah, a lot more people have lost their chance this year, but there was an opportunity to get on a lawsuit. And if you didn't do that, as I said, that's really your own decision. You can only look to yourself for that. And the financial terms of the lawsuits were frankly reasonable. There was someone discussing with me at the weekend about another lawyer that wanted to file a lawsuit today or tomorrow to try and get in before the end of the fiscal year. And that lawyer was charging $15,000, wanted $15,000 prepaid in order to file that lawsuit. It's not cheap to hire a lawyer. So if you paid $500 or $1,000 or $2,000, you paid peanuts, okay? And you got bloody good lawyers and you got a successful argument, right? So, 15,000 isn't a ridiculous amount. I don't think those lawyers know what they're talking about necessarily. And if they do, it's only because they've watched Charles Cook and Curtis Morrison and co figure out all the ways to argue the thing. But nevertheless, $15,000 isn't unusual to sue the government, right? You're suing the government. You don't think that happens for $50, do you? No, of course not. So, how else did the lawsuit hearing go? To me, it's very clear that Judge Mehta is trying to protect. He's trying to understand. He's trying to do something fair. He's trying to protect the plaintiffs. But if you listen to the hearing, there was an interesting sort of back and forth about if he protects the roughly 25,000 plaintiffs, isn't he increasing their chance more than they would normally have? So I sent a couple of Twitter tweets or whatever while that was being said to Charles Cook and Greg Siskind and co. And I'm preparing a report right now, which I need to get back to for Greg Siskind and Charles Cook, and I'll send it to Curtis as well, in case they're interested in that. That shows that in a typical year, roughly 40% of people selected in the lottery don't apply anyway. They don't go through, right? They don't even send in their DS-260. And so the government every year over selects. And so, yeah, we got 132,000, not 137,000, as the lawyer from the government said this morning. We got 132,000 selectees. 40% of those people wouldn't apply. And then something like 10% of those people, if they did get interviewed, they would be refused. So, you can reckon on roughly 50% of the people never getting the visas anyway out of that 132,000. So there might be demand for, let's say, 65,000. And so, it's not like if we're asked to reserve something like 45,000 visas overall, with between the 20,000 or so that are issued and another 25,000 reserved, so that we get to about 45,000, that would be 45,000 out of 65,000, not out of 130,000, right? So that's the point I'm trying to make in a report I'm producing for Greg and Chuck right now. So the judge's understanding of that needs a little bit of a restatement, and I'm working on it. I'm working to try and fix that understanding a little bit through the lawyers, or provide them with the information so that they can send updated information to the judge. Okay, so I'm sure there's going to be some complaints, but anyway, let's have a look. So Kesley says, I'm totally disappointed with all of this going on. My parents, 2 sisters and brother have emigrated in America, and I'm the only child left alone. I was so happy to have won the lottery, and now everything is destroyed. I have zero chance to join them. Yeah, I mean, it's a sad story, like many other sad stories, Kesley. But I don't know what to say to that, really, apart from that's what it is. It's terrible, and the judge and the lawyers noted that today. It's a brutal process. Doesn't work out for everybody. It's very easy to get denied in this process. It's very important you do the process correctly, and even if you do all the process correctly, you're not guaranteed of getting a visa. And you knew that from the moment you were selected, because in the letter that says congratulations, you're selected, it then goes on to say selection is not a guarantee of getting a visa. So you should know that, but still, it's hard to hear that really confirmed. I get it. I understand that. Okay, so what about Afghanistan 2021 winners? Should they transfer to another country? Again, you're only going to get any sort of action really now. You're not going to get action in the next 3 days. Nothing's going to happen in the next 3 days, right? So for Afghan winners, just like every other winner, if you're on a lawsuit, you might get some sort of action. If you're not, you won't. And we have to wait and see what happens from the lawsuit. But there is no special effort being made for Afghan cases in particular, nor Iraqis, nor people in the Moscow embassy or whatever. There are a number of embassies that are closed. Afghanistan, is one example of people going through hell at the moment. But the same could be said for Yemen. Look at how Yemen has been getting on for the last few years. It's been hell there too. And there's no special efforts being made for those countries either. There's also some very fortunate countries where some DV 2021 winners were scheduled for interviews, fully expected to get their interviews. And I'm thinking of Sydney right now. And then all of a sudden, Sydney went into lockdown, so the embassy closed. And all of those interviews have been cancelled and won't get rescheduled in time. So, lots of dreams are being destroyed this year. I fully get it. But it's not particular to Afghanistan. And DV lottery is not the remedy for the problems in Afghanistan. It's just one possible route that, that people can take if they're fortunate enough to win the lottery. Your case has been in AP since September 24th. Any chance? For me to answer that question, you'd have to tell me why it was in AP, right? I don't know why it was in AP, so I can't tell you. If it's because you were missing a document and you failed to produce it, then you can't get approved, right? If you did produce a document that was missing and you produced it immediately, you may have a chance. But I don't know what I don't know what's missing. I got really frustrated and pissed off the other day because I got like several emails in a row where people posts on my blog where people were saying they went to this interview and they were put on AP because they didn't have the I-134. I don't know how many times I tell people, listen to me, don't listen to idiots. Idiots will tell people, don't bother with the I-134, it's not required at our embassy, or don't worry about that. And if you go to an interview in late September without an I-134, you're a bloody idiot, because you will screw up your case When they ask you for the I-134 and you can't produce it on time, you'll screw your case up. So you have to go prepared. It's stupid to not get the I-134, and then waste the time after. Honestly, it pisses me off. It just makes me angry that people don't listen, and they listen to some dude on the internet that, doesn't know his ass from his elbow when it comes to DV lottery, and is just doing the whole thing for clicks. Whereas I'm saying to people, look, get the I-134. You should have had that in your pocket. I don't know what your particular problem was. I don't know what you missed out, but it's frustrating when people don't prepare properly. Okay, Hassan is asking, I heard this year KCC will not follow up the CN, they follow up the DS submitted date. Is that true? No, it's not true. There's so many people who are just getting this wrong time and time again. It's not the DS 260 submitted date that is the ordering used to schedule visas. It's the day you finish the documentarily qualified process, the day you finish that. However, the day you submit the DS-260 can be relevant, right? Because you can get ahead of the other cases to some extent. If you submit your case very, very early, like in May, and sometimes May and June, etc., those very early submissions for cases that can be processed quickly can get their documents then processed quickly and will get DQ before other cases, right? But it's the date of DQ that's important. They also do look at once they have a backlog of cases, they order cases in case number order. That's the way they're supposed to work by law. That's the way they do work. That's the way they've said they work in various court declarations, and that's the way the data shows they're working. Okay, so those things are not in doubt, although many people still doubt me. I don't know why. What's the result of Judge Mehta's conference? Should they will extend DV 2021? The result is they're going to probably at some point allow processing of visas for some number of cases that are named plaintiffs. If you're not a named plaintiff, you didn't pay to be on a lawsuit, or you're not on a lawsuit, then you're not going to be helped, right? And that's what's going to happen. It's obvious that Judge Mehta is only going to give relief for named plaintiffs. If you don't understand why that is, by the way, is that nobody is actually formally representing the non-plaintiffs. There's no class action. There is no lawyer representing all the other people. Last year in the Gomez case, we had a lawyer that was representing all the other people. Judge Mehta certified that class on September 30th in order to make some lawyer, or a team of lawyers, as it turned out, responsible for the interests of the non-plaintiffs or the non-named plaintiffs, the class action. This year, there is no such thing happening. There was a motion made by Curtis Morrison to try and get the class action, but about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he withdrew that request because it became obvious that, number one, Judge Mehta wasn't, being swayed by the request for class certification, and it was complicated to argue that through. And number two, getting the class certification seemed to be negatively impacting the paying customers of Curtis, right? The clients that Curtis has. And his first and foremost objective is to work for the people that are paying for him. And so, whether you agree or not, that was his strategy. And, he's got to work for the people that pay him. We all do that, right? We all do our jobs for the people that pay us. We don't suddenly do our jobs for everybody else. Well, apart from me, that's what I do all every day. But most people just work for the people that pay them, right? Okay. When I send an email to the KCC as to transfer the embassy, can I suggest more than one embassy? Yeah, you can say, I can make it to this embassy or that embassy. Yeah, absolutely. You could say that if that's what you're going through. I've listened to the hearing today, and the lawyers are suggesting that they do suggest the court reserves visas for everyone, but they're offering another option in case the court declines. Yeah, they asked for, Charles Cook has asked for the reservation of all the visas, right? all 55,000, up to 55,000, whatever, it doesn't get issued. But since you were listening to the lawsuit, you also heard Judge Mehta's opinion on that, which was similar to what he was saying a couple of weeks ago. And it doesn't seem like he wants to do that. He doesn't really have an authority to protect people who are not represented, who are not before him in court, and not represented in some sort of class. Okay, he's got to have an appropriate authority. He can't give protection to people that are not asking for protection. Right? He's not a bloody Marvel superhero. He's a judge. He has to work within certain certain boundaries, certain rules, etc. Okay, so I don't think there's any standing for him to give protection to people that are not asking for that protection. And you may be shouting in your bedroom that you want protection, but that's not the same thing. That's not asking the judge in a formal way. I'm the CEO of a company making good money. My stream of income will still be available in the US. So do I really need sponsoring? I would say, why test the theory? Why would you make life difficult? Just get an I-134 from someone that you know in the USA. It's not legally binding on them. It's a little personal. They're giving personal information about their income and that sort of thing. But just get it. You can try and convince the CEO that your income stream will continue, but why take the risk? I don't know. This process should be about reducing risk. But if you want to try, you can try. It might be okay. It depends kind of, how the CEO sees you. It's very much a personal decision from one case to another, right? One person may not be asked for an I-134 or any proof of finances. The next person could be, right? It really is like that. Okay. What do you think about the next currency and how many case number will be confirmed for Iran? I think you're asking about the next visa bulletin. I don't know. I'm not going to predict that. I don't know how many cases will be confirmed for Iran. I don't know what you mean by that. Do you think that reopening our DS260 can cause delay? This is something I have in my FAQ on my blog. It doesn't generally cause delay, but it depends what you're changing in there. If what you're doing is you're changing an address of where you live right now, and that's within the same city or something like that, there's no delay. There's no impact of that to your case. If, on the other hand, you just remembered that you lived in Iran for 5 years and you forgot to mention it on your DS260, you're putting that in there, that's obviously significant to your case. It's a new country that you hadn't mentioned before, and yes, that's going to cause some reprocessing. So depending on what you change, if you add if you just had you got married, you're adding a new person, that's obviously a significant change. Having a baby is a significant change. So there are some things that will affect the DS260 processing, and there's some things that won't. And it also depends at what point you're at in the process. The KCCC say that once they have DQ'd a case, if you then unlock the DS260, it causes a re-evaluation of the documents. I actually think that's bullshit. It doesn't automatically do that, but maybe there's some sort of re-evaluation that they want to do. So it depends what you do in the DS260, basically. All of this that we're talking about for the good luck case will also apply for Jacob as well. Or right, same things. AS 10,000, is it a good number? And I have a lawyer. Should I send any documents telling KCC you have a lawyer? What the bloody hell have you got a lawyer for? Why are you paying a lawyer to do something that you can do yourself? It's a silly idea. Why? Particularly since most lawyers don't understand this process and can't add anything to it. And if they do anything, they'll probably just make it worse. But if you want to go ahead and pay a lawyer to make your case worse and to learn on your dime, absolutely, go ahead, be my guest. But no, you don't have to tell KCC if you make that silly move. Will Nigerians be eligible in the upcoming green card lottery? This is an interesting one. I don't think they will. The reason Nigerians are excluded from the lottery is because their immigration through other types went over a certain limit. It's a 50,000 limit. So there were enough people migrating to the USA from Nigeria through other avenues, family-based, work experience or work-based, etc. All those other avenues, so that Nigeria didn't need to be considered as part of the other countries for the diversity visa, which is supposed to represent the underrepresented countries, the countries where there's not already a lot of immigration. So the same reason goes for why India is not allowed to participate, Pakistan, Bangladesh, my own country of the UK. There are many countries, China, there are many countries that are excluded from the diversity lottery because they already have enough immigrants. Nigeria is an interesting case because it was sort of borderline. When they went over the 50,000 number, it wasn't much over the 50,000 number, but it was over the 50,000. But of course, the last year and a half has seen very, very low immigration. And the 50,000 number I'm referring to is taken based on the last 5 years. So the last year and a half could change that number. And therefore, we could see some countries coming into either this year's or next year's lottery that wouldn't normally be in the lottery. Now, I don't think we're going to see the UK back in there, or China, or India, but maybe Nigeria. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see whether that happens or not. We'll know in about a week's time. The DV 2023 open period, the entry period, will be in early October to early November. We don't have a precise date yet, but that will probably be announced, I would say, the end of this month, or very early part of next month, like the 1st or the 2nd of October, because the entry period will probably be starting in the week of, that starts on the 4th of October. Okay, that's probably when it will be. This is a good question. Does the reserve of the DV 2021 visa will affect on the DV 2022 visas? Basically, the government need to pull their finger out and increase resources rather than slowing down 1 year because of their, the work they're being told to do in DV 2021. They need to increase resources. Simple as that. So, so I don't know is the honest answer, but we'll have to see. You'll have to see, what happens. Another good question for non-plaintiffs: should they give up? We'll know in about 3 days' time, but probably, yeah, they're going to have to give up. The only remaining hope those people will have is from the Meng Amendment that I mentioned, that is going through the reconciliation bill process. We don't know whether that part of the law is going to make it in or not. And so we just have to wait and see. Okay. Let me take 1 or 2 more questions and I'm going to call it a day. I need to get back to some other work here. KCC is not requiring my documents. They have some other numbers that tell me they got a notification. So they're not asking you for your documents. It's too late. Is it DV 2021, DV 2022? I don't know. You have to be a bit more clear when you're asking the question. See if there's any other. Buddha, change your tweet. You are leading people to some porn content. Are you serious? Is that what I did with the CC Cook thing? Oh God. Well, if that's true, Buddha, I'll have to delete the tweet. I misspelt Charles Cook's address. and by as bad luck would have it, it seems I'm directing people to some porn. I'm so embarrassed if that's true. What a wally. Okay, so what else we got here? I'll check that in a moment, Pooja. Thank you. Let's see. Uh, Raj, you're not asking me, you're not giving me enough information, but your DV 2022, I'm going to assume. Sydney Embassy is closed right now, so I don't know what that will mean to your case, but your case number in Nepal, if that's DV 2022, is not going to be current for about a year from now. So almost a year, 10 or 11 months. So the world will look different, very different by then. Okay. And it doesn't matter that you're already documentarily qualified. If if your case number is not current, you can't get an interview. So wait and see, and stop repeating the question. Okay, let me just. This is a good question. Will Judge Mehta decide between 2020, 2021, and 2022? I don't think he's going to make those decisions. No, I think he's going to make it for the government to figure out. He's still got to say when DV 2020 processing will start. He's got to now make up his mind about DV 2021. And basically, if the government don't process DV 2022 cases because of the tier 4 prioritization or because of other work, then they're going to get sued again. Right? Charles Kirk, Greg Siskind, Curtis Morrison, they'd all be delighted to sue the government again because they can keep playing this game over and over again. And that's fine by them to sue. We would all much rather not go through that, though. Frankly, you shouldn't have to sue to get your case processed. But if the government are stupid enough to cause that to happen again, then they're going to get sued again. It's as simple as that, and they'll lose again because the arguments are already well explained. Right? They've got to do this job. Okay, you're a lawsuit plaintiff, but not yet DQ. Any chances? So this is interesting because Judge Mehta made a comment about this today, and I thought it was kind of weird. There are many people not documentarily qualified because KCCC didn't do their damn job for months on end, right? And so it's not okay, I don't think, for the government or even Judge Mehta to say, oh, well, these people are not documentarily qualified, so sorry, they didn't do what they needed to do. We're not giving them a chance. I don't think that should be the outcome at all. I'd be very, very surprised if Judge Mehta made some sort of order that limited the benefit to people who are documentarily qualified. It's KCC's fault, largely speaking, that many people are not documentarily qualified. So I hope he doesn't go down that path, but he did make a comment along those lines today, which I found kind of frustrating. Okay. Let me take one more good question. If I can find one. Yeah, just so Sammy, you've asked this time and time again. You shouldn't do that. But anyway, you submitted your documents in July. You've not heard anything. Firstly, submitting your documents in July was very, very late. Should have submitted earlier than that. But any chances for you? No, probably not, unless you're a plaintiff on one of the lawsuits. That's how that works, I'm afraid, as I've been saying all this time. Okay, this will be the last question I'll answer. Clarify what will happen to the winners if the embassy is closed due to COVID-19 or other issues, right? So this is like Sydney, for example, right now. So essentially, these things that happen to cases in Sydney, for example, Sydney area is under a lockdown. And because of that, the Sydney embassy is closed and is not doing any visa processing business. In that scenario, there are people that will lose out. They'll not get their visas, right? Now, if those people were on a lawsuit, then they might get some help later. But basically, no, people are going to miss out because embassies are closed because of COVID-19. That sucks. That absolutely sucks. But that's what it is. And that's why a number of people chose to sue the government to get some sort of protection. But if people didn't sue the government, then those people are going to miss out. Sadly, that's the reality. Okay, so this is a relatively quick live session today. Like I said, I'm doing some things that I think Greg Siskind and Charles Cook need from me, and I'm also, it's the middle of my working day, so I need to cut this short and end there. But hopefully that was useful in understanding what went on at the lawsuit this morning. I hope that's clear. And just in terms of timeline, we're going to have some news in the next 3 days. Judge Mehta is asking for certain information from the government by tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. And then he's going to issue his order, I would say the following day or the day after that. He's only got till Thursday. I'm actually going to be traveling on Wednesday and Thursday. So I'll figure out a way of going online. I'll take a laptop with me. I'll try and go online from the conference where I'm at. I'm going to be in Las Vegas. So yeah, Britt Simon's in Las Vegas in the next couple of days. So what happens in Vegas will be all work probably. All right. Thanks everyone for joining me. Appreciate your time, and I hope that was helpful. All right. Bye-bye now.